welcome back. Yes, welcome back. This tutorial is basically about how DNS servers work and then how it can be simulated within the eNSP simulation software. So, what is a DNS? DNS is domain name system. Domain name system is the phone book of the internet, right? This definition is from Cloudflare, the Facebook, or did I say Facebook? Sorry, it's the phone book of the internet. So it maps domain names, right? Domain names that are easier for humans to remember. It maps them to IP addresses, which are very difficult for humans to remember because they are numbers. We can't be queuing numbers for all the websites that we use. So if we enter google.com in our browser, what it does is our network interface card will send a request to the DNS server asking for the IP address of google.com before the request you are making can be encapsulated and then sent across the network. Okay, so let's start. This is how the topo is a simple configuration. We have two different networks, the 192.168.0.2/24 network, and then the 10.10.10.10.0/24 network. Right. So I haven't done anything yet. This is just the beginning. Nothing has been configured. The routers are still in their normal state, and then the topology I've uploaded the topology. The link is in the description, right? So you can download it and then do it yourself. First of all, we need to assign our devices IP addresses so that they can communicate over the network. So we give our DNS server 192.168.0.2 with the subnet mask. I think it has already been filled for us, and our gateway will be 192.168.0.1. Okay, let's save that. For PC 1, we are going to give it 192.168.0.3. right? The subnet mask is 255.255.255, and the gateway is 192.168.0.1, and we need to give it the DNS server address. All right. So first of all, let's skip that. We'll come back to it. Let's skip that, and then you go to our router. Let's just change the name from router to, why is my thing blinking like that? From name a minute. Name R1. Okay, then we go to interface G000. Then we give it an IP address of 192.168.0.1/24. Then we go into we need to go into the other interface, which is interface G001, IP address 10.10.10.0/24, no, .1/24. I think we are done with router 1. For the other router, let's rename it to Google. Name Google. Then we go to interface G001. We assign it an IP address of 10.10.10.2/24. Okay. So I think that's it for the routers. So now let's try and ping our DNS server and see if it works. Over here we can do ping 192.168.0.2. Right, it works. That's fine. And then let's also try and ping this interface on our router. So ping 10.10.10.1. That also works. And then we'll ping the interface on the Google router, which is 10.10.10.2. Request timeout, yes, just as we expected. The reason being that the request goes alright, but then the Google router has no idea of our network. Okay, so if we check the IP routing table, you see that it has no idea of the 192.168 network. So we have to configure a static route to 192.168.0.0 network /24 and tell it to use a next hop address of 10.10.10.1, which is this interface on router 1. Right, so now if we try pinging, we receive the reply. Okay, so that's it for now. Let's try and see if we can ping google.com. Ping www.google.com. We are getting host unreachable. Okay. The reason being that when we type in this, our PC is going to send a request to its DNS server. Right. But right now we have only configured this in the eNSP. If you come to the end devices, you will see server. This is a multi-purpose server. It can serve as, when you come to the server info tab, it can serve as a DNS server, an FTP server, and an HTTP server. Right. So over here, we want it to act as a DNS server. So we would have to start the DNS server. Okay. Once we start it, let's try pinging google.com and see what happens. Still destination unreachable. The reason being, the DNS server is up and running, alright, but it has no entry that corresponds to google.com. So we would have to add some entry. So we stop our DNS server and then we add that entry, www.google.com, and then we give it the IP address of 10.10.10.10. I think .2, this interface, right? .2. Let's add that to our entries, and then let's add another one for facebook.com. Let me just give it 179.0.1.2. Alright, so we can also add that, and then we'll start our server. Now let's try pinging google.com. Still says destination unreachable. Alright, so now what you have to do is, let's come back to PC1. Where's PC1? Let's come back to PC1. Let's go to the basic configuration. We haven't configured the DNS for our PC2. So if we try pinging to google.com, it will try contacting the DNS server, but then this any address is not for any DNS server. So it will simply tell you the host is unreachable. Okay. So what we have to do is we specify a DNS server for our PC2, which is 192.168.0.2, which is that's the IP address for our server, as we can see over here. Okay. So inside PC2, if we apply and then we try pinging google.com, now you notice we wrote ping google.com. Now it writes ping www.google.com. We didn't specify any IP address, but then it has specified the IP address over here, 10.10.10.2. It's because when we ping to google.com, we send a request to the DNS server. The DNS server replies with the IP address of the URL that we gave it. So we can our network interface card will now use that IP address to make the request. Alright, so that will be the destination IP address in the IP header. Basically, this is what a DNS is about, and then this is how it can be configured within the eNSP simulation software. Yes, we will end this tutorial for now. The next one will come in later, probably on FTP or on DHCP. Right. So, but for now, this will be it. The link to the topology will be there. Yes, it will be inside the description. Have a good morning.